Welcome to The Way of the Leaf, a reread and discussion podcast based on the epic fantasy series The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordon. My name is Ryan, and I'm currently thinking about pulling badgers out of dens.
And I am Daniel, Brother Dan, the angry Thatcher, and we are The Way of the Leaf.
And this is the LeafCast. And this is episode 2. First, we're going to start with a spoiler-free recap and led by Brother Dan. First-time readers of the series can listen without fear, as we will keep the discussion to only things we've learned from the prologue and this first chapter. Already, we have one episode under our belts, so as this is episode 2, we are following a hollow tradition dating all the way back to episode 1. We have prepared quotes. We have music by independent artists, and we have a special guest visit by Dan Carlin. We are deeply grateful if anyone is listening right now.
Yeah.
We hope that you reach out to us, thewayoftheleafcast@gmail.com. We are going to be faithfully coming out with an episode once a week. We will go chapter by chapter.
Word by word.
We word by word. No,
character by character.
And this is good. Yeah, and we will be done in 20 years, the equal amount of time Robert Jordan took to write the series. We will be podcasting. When I first started listening to podcasts, what I loved the most was finding a podcast that was just starting and watching it grow. And I think if you are jumping on with us right now, you're going to have that same experience. You're going to watch it grow.
Like now, mushrooms or like a virus.
Or barnacles.
Like barnacles on a boat.
Barnacles, yeah, on your ears. Barnacles on your ears.
Hey, Doc, I got this really sharp thing growing on my ears here.
It's time for me to hand the reins over to my storytelling brother.
Oh, boy. Hey, give me those reins. Hey, oh, hey.
He turned into Santa Claus.
Oh, on Mortimer, on Shlomo, on Jesse. Fly!
Oh, goodness. It's
jackholes.
Dan, I want to hand the reins over to you. Can you please tell us the story of Chapter 1 of Eye of the World, An Empty Road? Recap.
That music makes it feel like I'm just sauntering onto a stage, all like syrupy over hot waffles. I love it. Thank you, Ryan. I will tell this story of Chapter 1, An Empty Road. Once we get past the maps, we get to the Chapter 1, An Empty Road. The heading sigil.
Icon.
The emblem is a 7-spoked wheel with a snake that is intertwined and chewing on its own tail. This is the classic Wheel of Time emblem, and it is also the emblem that was for the prologue Dragon Mount. And it leads us to first chapter of the first paragraph, rather, of many, many, many paragraphs in this series, and it starts like this.
The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the Third Age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the Wheel of Time. But it was a beginning. Born below the ever cloud-capped peaks that gave the mountains their name, the wind blew east, out across the sand hills, once the shore of a great ocean, before the breaking of the world. Down it flailed into the two rivers, into the tangled forest called the Westwood, and beat at two men walking with a cart and horse down the rock-strewn track called the Quarry Road. For all that spring should have come a good month since, The wind carried an icy chill, as if it would rather bear snow.
We have the beginning to the chapter. The wind blows down, the wind is cold, and it gusts against Rand al'Thor. His cloak beats against his back. He tries to keep his cloak wrapped around him while holding his bow with an arrow nocked, ready to go, which isn't the easiest thing. He's having a hard time kind of keeping his cloak about him as well. He wishes he had a different shirt. His cloak it's clumsy. His quiver gets in the way. And he's trying to just deal with the elements because it is cold. They're on their way into town. They're in a farm in the Westwood, and they're on their way into Edmonds Field, which is the nearest town for them. You see that there is an aggressive wind that is going, and in fact, the words that Robert Jordon uses is pretty great. The imagery that the wind even gives is kind of a violent imagery. It flails into the two rivers, into the tangled forest called the Westwood, and beat at two men walking with a cart. That's not a gentle image. And the wind is really doing its number on Rand. He's uncomfortable. He's walking. He looks over and he sees his dad, Tam al'Thor, walking next to him as well. All around him, there's no green. The only thing that has kept any leaf are needles and such. There's snarls of last year's bramble spread brown webs over outcrops under the trees. Nettles numbered most among the few weeds. There's not really a lot of growth going, even though they're going in for a festival called Beltane, which is to celebrate the beginning of spring. But the Two Rivers folks are pretty darn stubborn, and they've always had Beltane. They always will. And if the weather doesn't cooperate, well, bugger that, we're still going to do it because this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's always going to be. And we're tough as nails. We're rough as bark. I think they say that they could teach donkeys to be stubborn and they could teach stones how to be hard or something, which is,
Oh, interesting phrase.
yeah.
Phrasing, Robert. Thank you.
We hear that it's been kind of rough. That these two men that are walking are shepherds, and there's been a large number of wolves and bears where they haven't been spotted in years, which is pretty scary. Having wolves come and pick off a sheep, I would imagine is quite a frightening thing for a shepherd, but it seems like this is something that's been going on for them. And apparently, quote, men were the prey as often as sheep, and the sun did not always have to be down. So things are getting kind of dangerous in his neck of the woods. It is early morning down the quarry road. It's rock strewn. We see that he is reassured by the presence of his father, Tam, describing Tam al'Thor, quote, with his thick chest and broad face, he was a pillar of reality in that morning, like a stone in the middle of a drifting dream. His sun-roughened cheeks might be lined and his hair have only a sparkling of black amongst the gray, but there was a solidness to him, as though a flood could wash around him without uprooting his feet. He stumped down the road now impassively. Wolves and bears were all very well, his manner said, things that any man who kept sheep must be aware of, but they had best not try to stop Tam al'Thor getting to Edmonds Field. End quote. Yes, and he is a very likable person, especially with Rand. We're getting Rand's point of view. He's a little nervous about the morning's just creeping him out. It's just funky. It's just giving him the heebie-jeebies, the willies. It's got snakes crawling up and down his spine, and he looks over, and his dad's just using his spear as a walking stick, looking all just badass. The wind's blowing around him, but he doesn't care. He looks good, he's got, I assume a pretty thick head of hair. Kind of like So let's kind of picture maybe like a Mel Gibson in like Braveheart type.
Oh,
Maybe,
yeah,
yeah,
but
maybe a little older though.
and less racist.
Yeah, a lot less racist. I would say that.
Well, I wanna focus on how already the tone is set that nature and man are at odds for some reason. The wind is being aggressive to to the two people, and already you're seeing issues with crops and just the growth around them. So the tone is being set that there's something askew with between man and nature.
That you know what, and that's an interesting way to put it. And there's a quote here that, to your point, it refers to quote, nettles numbered most among the few weeds. The rest were the sort with sharp burrs or thorns or stinkwood, which left a rank smell on the unwary boot that crushed it. And so that does actually point to the imagery of a man versus nature, and nature, if a man touches
Mhm.
it, it stinks. It ain't good.
Awesome, good pull.
Thank you. We see Rand gets comfortable again, and we notice by his own description that he's a head taller than his father, and that he's taller than anyone else in the district. He has gray eyes and red hair. Apparently, looked like his mother, who he does not really remember, and who died. All he remembers is her smiling face.
Smiling face, yes.
They are bringing 2 casks of Tam's apple brandy and 8 larger barrels of apple cider, only slightly hard after a winter's curing. Seems to be a repeat order that Tam brings into the town every time it comes. And even though he didn't want to come, the weather sucks. Wolves are around, bears are around. They're attacking men, even when the sun isn't down. He gave his word, and there ain't no stopping Tam Althor if he gives his word. He's a sturdy guy. So
that keg will get to the front.
oh yeah. He's gonna show up, and everyone's gonna go, oh, where's Tam Althor? Come on, it's getting late. The band's about to start. Where's Tam Althor? And then suddenly the barn doors get kicked in, and he's got 2 casks, one on each shoulder. And he's like, boys, Saturdays are for the boys. And everyone goes, yeah.
Here's my question. If Tam was not an apple brandy brewer, would he be so well received? Would people actually want to know anything he's saying? Maybe people are coming up to him and asking him all these interesting questions. Be like, "Hey, man, tell me what's going on, buddy." They're, oh man, all the ladies are coming up and be like, "Oh, come in, man, come, all this and that." And maybe it's really just that they're like they're lechers and they want that apple brandy. And Tam, and the other question is, does Tam know this? Is that his game? What is going on with the apple brandy, Dan?
It is an invitation to frivolity. I think it is like Tavern Talk. Rumors start flying like frisbees.
Basically, he's a fun time guy, even though everything we know about him is that you don't want to mess with him.
And he's solid. Yeah, he's just a solid dude. You look at him.
He's well-rounded.
I have a brother-in-law that I referred to like as a Tam sort, that I'm like, you know what? You're
Tam Althor.
You're Tam Althor. Yeah, this is Paul Martin. If you're listening, you are Tam Althor. So these guys are walking, and Rand starts to get a weird feeling as he's watching his side of the road. They're watching for wolves and such. Tam Althor is watching his side. Rand Althor is watching his side. Horse and cart are just watching straight ahead, probably. And he gets this weird feeling, and I'm going to quote real fast. As Rand watched his side of the road, the feeling grew in him that he was being watched. For a while, he tried to shrug it off. Nothing moved or made a sound among the trees except the wind, but the feeling not only persisted, it grew stronger. The hairs on his arms stirred. His skin prickled as if it itched on the inside. With that feeling, he turns around, just kind of glances over his shoulder, and not 20 paces away, there is a rider, like right behind him. Not 20 paces. That's like It's like a high school quarterback can make that throw. It's a 20-yarder. Easy. It's right there. It's right there.
So a yard is a pace?
Yeah, it's like 3 feet. Yeah, it's like one step. One step.
Is that canon?
It's it is.
Okay, no, just go with it. All right, it is now.
Well, you know what?
It is
I'm
now.
open to correction,
Well,
ladies and gentlemen. Please
I
let
think
Ryan know when he's wrong.
I think. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, but also I do believe that once you put it into existence, it is canon. That's how canon works.
This is
It
how
now
I've been
canon.
thinking of it. This is how we are going to talk about it until I am proven wrong, which I am open to fact. I 90% of the times I make up 48% of my stats.
And Bernie Sanders is your consultant?
The top 1%.
Yeah. No. All right, so okay, back on track.
So there's a rider there. He's all in black. His horse is all in black. He's like 20 paces away, and he's just feeling just super creeped out by him. There's like feeling a burning hate emanating from him. And although he can't see his face because his face is drawn up deep under a cowl, he's just feeling as if he's staring like into his soul, and that he just hates him. And Rand's just kind of hypnotized, trips over a stone, falls, catches himself off the horse Bella.
Mhm.
His bow falls, his quiver kind of shifts. His father goes, "Are you all right, lad?" I love that's the first thing we hear from him
Yeah.
is, hey bro, everything good? You know, that's Tam in a nutshell, I would think, kind of based on his demeanor during this. Rand says, there's a rider. Where? Down. They turn around, nothing. Bum bum bum.
A cannonball
There
run.
is
Callback.
There is no rider. Oh,
Yes, Ryder is gone.
and what's worse, Rand suddenly realizes, you know what? The wind's whipping me around. It's whipping my dad, although he doesn't care. He doesn't pretend. He's all good. That rider, it didn't whip anything. His cloak was just still. Tam's like, there's a rider, huh? You sure? Yeah, well, any horse has got to leave hoof prints. Let's go. He starts to go back and check it out. But Rand says, you know what? It's cold. Let's just get into town. We're all good. And Tam says, well, I could do with a pipe and some ale where it's warm. Yeah. You know, Rand, you speak truth. I'd appreciate it. But you know what? Remember the flame, lad, and the void. Advice that Tam apparently has always presented to Rand in times when he seems agitated or needs to find focus. It's this flame and the void in which he would feed all his distractions, all his emotions into candle he was envisioning to clear his mind. He thought it was kind of gobbledygook to a certain degree, but Tam always seemed to win the Archer contest every year at Beltane. So there's got to be something to it. And Rand was hoping that he could at least place if he could maintain it. So at least it does provide some sort of focus when you're doing a skill like archery or whatnot. Rand's nervous, but they continue on to the village. Past the waterwood, there's a tangle of streams, there's all these things. And then they enter the village itself. So Tam and Rand come in to almost their version of a little hero's welcome. Kids are running everywhere. Kids have been hard to find opportunity to play. But when the guy with the liquor comes to town, then daddy and mommy are happy and the kids are all happy. So they start dancing around, dogs are barking, kids are jumping. People are asking about things up in the Westwood, and we learn a little bit about the Two Rivers people, just how stubborn and resilient they tend to be. As Tam is on his way into the main part of the village, an old man is standing in the middle of the street. So whether Tam has to stop Bella or he would actually have been run over, we meet Whit Conger, who's apparently infamous for just being a troublemaker and a complainer. So he stands there and he instantly just starts lashing into Tam about Nynaeve Almira. Bran's like, hey, Whit, thanks. I got to get this to Bran Alvear. He's like, what are we going to do about Nynaeve, Althor? Not a, hey, long time no see. How was your ride? Oh, Rand, you look good. Tam, you look handsome and eligible bachelor as ever. It's good. May the light shine. No, right into the biz. Right into the biz. What are we gonna do about this? What do we do about a problem like Maria? How do we solve a problem like Maria? I think that's from Sound of Music. How do we solve a problem like Maria? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Let's pretend that I don't like musical theater, okay?
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Done.
No, it's how do you solve a problem like Maria? So she started off as a nun who then was taking care of the Von Trapp children and then decides to marry him, I think. How do you solve a problem like Nynaeve Almira?
Oh, there you go.
That's what Whit Conger was saying.
Bring it around.
So Tam's like, yeah, back off. They start arguing a little bit. Whit Conger's wife comes out. Apparently she's twice as large, not an ounce of fat. Starts yelling about women's circle business versus village council. We learn that Tam is actually the Emmonsfield version of a hot item on the market.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really admirable that he's mourned his wife, but a man with that farm needs a good woman out there to warm it up for him. And so it is a little dangerous for them to come into town. Apparently, there was all kind of invitations to, hey, why don't you stop in on the way, blah. And he's like, no, I just got to get up. And this is actually the day before the Beltane celebration, which is late for them. They generally come earlier. And Bran even says, hey, I was hoping you were going to come, but you normally don't come this late. And Tam's like, yeah, well, and I wouldn't have come if I didn't promise, but my word's my bond. And gosh darn it, I'm a solid brick of a man.
And actually, more specifically, he wouldn't have come because the way the wolves and the bears are. The way the wolves and the bears have been acting.
Well, apparently there's some cougars in town as well, if you're hearing me. Well,
okay, good wives.
All right, so they get into the green and they're erecting a spring pole. Rand kind of pretends he doesn't see because that's tradition. The men are supposed to be all surprised. Oh my gosh, the spring pole's up, and all the unmarried women of fertile age dance around with silk, draping the erect pole with their silk. So it's a fertility thing. I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about it. Wait, is he here? All right, let's open this drawer. Let me open. Hello, fellas.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Carlin, the preeminent podcaster, historian, student of history, Dan Carlin.
Ryan, it's good to see you. I'm glad that you were thinking about picking badgers out of a den. That's a favorite pastime around this time that I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, Rand and Tam Althor came all this way from their village or their farm into the village, not because they really wanted to, but because of tradition. What they were going to was a festival called Beltane.
Beltane is apparently a very important tradition in this town. And in fact, it's one of the few times that Rand Althor lays flowers on his deceased mom's grave. Beltane is traditionally a springtime festival, usually done on the 1st of May in our time. That is a celebration of the end of winter and the beginning of the birth process in general. And so this is why it really is remarkable that as Tam and Rand are walking from their farm, the wind feels like it wants to have snow in it. And in fact, there are patches of snow in some of the shady parts of the forest. The wolves are coming down and the bears are being angry. The weather just isn't cooperating with this festival. And yet, well, the two rivers, they go on just as they would. People are fixing their thatch and preparing, even though there is not much to prepare for. There is no crops growing. Well, it's as if winter hasn't ended yet. And so, with Rand bringing their brandy down, it is as much a social call as it is a way for the whole village to try and feel a little better. The dogs and the children haven't been playing because of the wolves. I mean, imagine that. You don't let your child out before dark because, well, it may get eaten by a wolf. It's you laugh, but I mean, this is the part of their life right now. Bears, I tell you. And so what they're bringing is, well, they're bringing alcohol, which I'm sure helps keep the winter at bay, I suppose, within the cockles of one's heart.
Mr. Carlin, how many young boys and girls have succumbed to bears and wolves on a yearly basis? What's your estimate? What do your numbers tell you?
Well, I'm not a historian. I'm just a fan of history. I surround myself with 50 or 60 books on the subject, and I read extensively, as you know, but based on my studies, I would say tens of thousands.
Oh, goodness.
A month.
And Edmondsfield alone in 1 year.
Oh, in Edmondsfield? Yeah. Yes, tens of thousands, yes.
Tam is bringing apple brandy to a village full of mourning parents.
Well,
amazing.
And
siblings.
Well, and let's take it one step further, shall we? I mean, this is a town that has thatched roofs. This is not a town that has very modern ways of doing things. The ground has been winter for months. These bodies have not been buried.
So basically 1 in 6 children. If you have a family of 6 children, one of them will be eaten by a bear or a wolf in a year.
All of them.
All
of them.
But then what happens after year 5? You're down to 1 child?
Yes, they're all gone.
Okay.
So what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you do. If you're the two rivers, I'll tell you what you do. You go on. You have a festival that highlights fertility. You have a festival in which the fertile, unmarried women dance around an erect pole, draping silk around it. I mean, it doesn't get more fertile than that, now does it? I asked you a question. Robert Jordon did it best when he was mentioning the activities that go on during Beltane in the two rivers. And so, Ryan, if it's possible, I'd like to spend a moment and just quote from the man himself, if that's okay. The whole day at Beltane would be taken up with singing and dancing and feasting, with time out for foot races and contests and almost everything. Prizes would be given not only in archery, but for the best with the sling and the quarterstaff. There would be contests at solving riddles and puzzles, at the rope tug, and lifting and tossing weights. Prizes for the best singer, the best dancer, and the best fiddle player, for the quickest to shear a sheep. even the best at bowls and at darts. Beltane was supposed to come when spring had well and truly arrived, the first lambs born and the first crop up. Even with the cold hanging on, though, no one had any idea of putting it off. Everyone could use a little singing and dancing. And to top everything, if the rumors could be believed, a grand display of fireworks was planned for the green. If the first peddler of the year arrived in time, of course. That had been causing considerable talk. It was 10 years since the last such display, and that was still talked about. I gotta go. Bye. And there's all kinds of festivities. There's all kinds of contests. It sounds pretty awesome.
Mhm. And from Rand's perspective, you really get to see how wondrous it is. Living his simple life, and then boom, this is what fear feels like. You are at risk. This is danger.
Tam and Rand move on from Whitconger. They meet Bran Alvear. Bran Alvear is the mayor. He's been the mayor for 20 years and the owner of the Wine Spring Inn, the only inn in town, the largest structure in town. While all the other houses have thatched roofs, he has red tile roofs. And we see that 3 of his 12 chimneys are lit. He comes out, he has the necklace of scales, showing that he is also one who negotiates with merchants when they come in. So he's a man of power. He greets Tam warmly, greets Rand warmly. How do you do? How do you do? Tam says, "Hey man, I wouldn't have come if I didn't say I was gonna, but I'm here." The mayor starts talking about how the mistress is upset that storks haven't shown up yet, as is tradition. He kind of shakes his head, and then we hear a voice.
An ill omen.
A scratchy voice announced.
No storks nesting on the rooftops at Beltane.
Sen Bui, as gnarled and dark as an old root, marched up to Tam and Bran and leaned on his walking staff, near as tall as he was and just as gnarled. He tried to fix both men at once with a beady eye.
There's worse to come, you mark my words.
Have you become a soothsayer, then, interpreting omens?
Tam asked dryly.
Or do you listen to the wind like a wisdom? There's certainly enough of it, some originating not far from here.
Mock if you will.
Sen muttered.
But if it doesn't warm enough for crops to sprout soon, more than one root cellar will come up empty before there's a harvest. By next winter, there may be nothing left alive in the 2 rivers, but wolves and ravens. If it is next winter at all, maybe it'll still be this winter.
Now what is that supposed to mean? Bran said sharply. Sen gave them a sour look.
I've not much good to say about Nynaeve Almira. You know that. For one thing, she's too young to... No matter. The women's circle seem to object to the village council even talking about their business, though they interfere in ours whenever they want to, which is most of the time, or so it seems.
Sen!
Tam broke in.
Is there a point to this?
This is the point, Althor. Ask the wisdom when the winter will end and she walks away. Maybe she doesn't want to tell us what she hears on the wind. Maybe what she hears is that the winter won't end. Maybe it's just going to go on being winter until the wheel turns and the age ends. There's your point.
Maybe sheep will fly.
Tam retorted, and Bran threw up his hands. The light protect me from fools. You, sitting on the village council, Sen, and now you're spreading that coupling talk. Well, you listen to me. We have enough problems without.
So we meet Sen Bui. Sen Bui comes up and also complains about Nynaeve Almira. And while Bran is dealing with really just people complaining about Nynaeve Almira to him on a constant basis, Rand gets a tug on his sleeve, and we meet his friend Matt Calthin. He's crouching behind him saying, Rand, come on, while they're arguing, let's bolt. Come on. We got Dav and I caught an old big badger. He's all grouchy, and we're going to let him loose on the green and watch the girls run.
In his mind, though, he goes, that's so last year.
He's like, you know what? But
That's so last year.
But I really do like an angry badger run. So yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'm kind of over that. But it does sound awesome. But I gotta unload these barrels. Matt's like, shh, unload barrels. I'd rather play stones with my baby sister, which must be the worst. Matt says, oh, we got strangers in the Two Rivers. And Rand goes, oh my God, do they have a black cloak? Is it on a black horse? And is he super scary and almost made you shit your pants and you wanted to barf and you just had fear all in your face and it just
And taught you about fear itself.
and taught you about fear itself and made you question reality and God damn it, his cloak wasn't even blowing in the wind and oh man. And Matt goes,
and Matt says, yes.
And Matt goes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah, he's like, you saw him? So they both saw this creepy, scary dude. Matt himself says, I swear to God, it felt like he was going to kill me. You laugh if you want. And apparently Matt's been laughed at as a kid. He didn't get hugged very often. He's very defensive because this is a recurring thing that we find that he tends to be defensive in his approach to trying to open up about this. And a couple times he does it here in this chapter where he's like, don't laugh, but he scared me, this whole thing. And Rand's like, dude, yeah, he's creepy.
Yeah.
He's creepy. Rand thinks about telling someone else, but Matt is kind of a liability. In fact, let me quote it here. Matt was something of a byword around the village. Few people had escaped his pranks. Now his name came up whenever a wash line dropped the laundry in the dirt or a loose saddle girth deposited a farmer in the road. Matt did not even have to be anywhere around. His support might be worse than none. Matt is the only other guy who's seeing it, and his support isn't really a glowing endorsement of them telling the truth about this thing. They both decide that they're going to just kind of keep their mouth shut. A Gleeman is in town that he shut up in the middle of the night, but that's just what it is. They ask if he wore a cloak. Sanbui's kind of all naysaying about the fireworks and cost of the Gleeman. He's like, we got to fix the roads. We got other things to do. You're just throwing parties. But everyone just kind of talked him out of it. But he's been
he wants to invest in infrastructure.
Yeah. So Tam's like, all right, boys, you got this. The sooner you guys are done, the sooner you can go check out that egg win. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, yeah, you guys empty that. I'm gonna go have a pipe, and then I'm gonna have some ale, and then I'm gonna have an edible. And then I'm gonna go with a foot massage, and then I'm gonna get a spritz. I'm gonna have a soup. I'm gonna have a bread bowl. After that, I'm gonna have some mutton. I'm gonna have another ale. I'm gonna have a shot of rum that I brought myself, my own brandy. I'm gonna have some brandy. I'm gonna have some pie. I'm gonna have another pipe. I'm gonna read a book. I'm gonna put my feet on the fire. I'm gonna fall asleep. I think that's what Tam said. Dav is stuck with the badger. Matt says, fine. You know what? Let Dav handle that stupid badger. And they unload the wagon. That's on page 36 it ends. All right, so imagine riding it down the road. You're like, you're just walking. Yeah, and I imagine it's probably like an hour to a couple hours away. It's not very close. It's not super close at all. So they're walking down. It's cold. You're uncomfortable, and you look around, and you're shown the concept of fear itself right behind you, 20 paces. That's got to be. I mean, so. And then it just disappears, so you don't have any justification. You obviously want your dad's validation because Tam, you've seen that he's like this stout,
solid dude. If he goes back and he notices that stuff, you obviously you want that him to do it. So the fact that he didn't get that validation, but Matt had seen it, is kind of like a half validation, half not. Rand is fully on board that Matt sees it, but he still can't take that information to a grown up with any sort of validity, I guess, or justification for them to believe them because Matt's attached.
It's a cool kind of kink in his character that people don't seem to like him. People seem to be irritated by him, and he seems to be pretty much disaffected by how people think about him. But he also has to kind of suffer the consequences of this because his friend wants to do the right thing and actually blow the lid off this whole thing, prepare the entire town. Something's going on. I'm being followed by a creepy deathmonger teaching me about the concept of fear itself. And trademark, copyright, trademark. Let's make a shirt. He could have done the right thing, but God darn it, Matt and his, no one's going to believe me because Matt does not add any gravitas to the proceedings. So yeah, you're right. It makes him an interesting character right off the bat. I like how his dialogue is written. He seems young. They both seem just pretty young. One of the great things about this chapter is that we get to see the world from the perspective of Rand, who seems to be a main character. So we have this main character, Rand. We get to hear his thoughts. We get to hear his thoughts as they juxtapose with his actions. In the very beginning, does the right thing, I believe, and kind of alerts his dad. But then later on, is that the right call to not really sound the alarm to everyone that, hey, not only did I see it, but another person saw it, and maybe we should all be on guard. It's a mistake of a young person.
Yeah, it does add his friend Matt as being a little bit of baggage to it, which is kind of fun. So essentially, we just have the story of two men walking into town.
We're going to take a break right now. All right. We're back. Brother Dan.
Yes.
Do we have any ads for the week?
We've gotten several offers. And we got I didn't say yes to. No, we're good. We're good. We don't have any yet.
Okay, no ads. That's a shame. But we do have a listener comment. Yeah, so we have a listener named Josh. He referred back to our episode 1 and my admission, my fearless admission that I cosplay Don DeLuise. And that I was having an issue with how I'm fitting into my my costume, and I thought it was rude that Dan brought it up. But a listener named Josh wanted to tell me that he felt bad that I've gained so much weight, and I just wanted to. I know.
I want to slap you so hard right now. I want to pull a mustache hair right from your face. I want to do it in front of all your heroes and idols. I want to find Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and I just want to slap you right in front of them.
Jeez. All right. So that's not my response. That's not. I have a more subdued response. Here's my response to listener Josh. Wow. Thanks, buddy. Excellent. So please reach out to us. Our email is thewayoftheleafcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter is
The Way of the Leaf. We are at Leaf_cast.
We have a SoundCloud page, which is The Way of the Leaf. We have a YouTube page, which is The Way of the Leaf. We've cornered the market. We are The Way of the Leaf. And this is the LeafCast. This episode is rolling. It's time for us to say goodbye to our first-time readers. Our spoiler-free section is done. We have musicians that work with us, and we want you to support them. Homunculus Rex, Luke Dahl, LukedAhl. Don't forget the H. Orlox, and Hermit Convention. And this episode, we featured the vocal talents of Aidan Morgan. Appreciate everyone following along. We love our first-time readers. This is your opportunity to stop the podcast because we are moving on to Tavern Talk. Tavern Talk, where?
Tavern Talk, where lips are loose and rumors fly like spaghetti off a plate. Tavern Talk.
So I'm opening the tavern door, and what do we see?
What was the name of the place we're stepping into, Ryan?
It is the Rusty Nipple.
The Rusty Nipple?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I am seeing a sparsely attired tavern with only a handful of patrons. In one corner, I see an old man with a desert cracked face, and he is overheard muttering about those bloody fireworks and this never-ending winter. One serving lady is leaning against a barrel with a bored and disaffected demeanor as she casts her eyes around the room looking for a patron in need. Two men are reaching the bottom of their tankers as they complain to each other again of the bloody, endless winter.
I'm hearing wolves outside. So there's a fire going. I'm imagining the fire's there. We're smelling some mutton.
We get to meet two of the three main characters. You meet Rand and Matt.
Oh, I thought you meant the Congers and the Coplins. So excited. We met the Coplins.
No, they are infamous, but not famous.
They're known
You're talking
all the way to Watch Hill, all the way to Terrence Ferry, all the way to, I think, to Scotland and Northern Ireland as well, as being complainers and bitchers and moaners.
So for Tavern Talk, like I said last episode, I'm not very good at reading fantasy. My first read through, I read it with a different kind of mindset. I missed so many details. And the second go around, my goal, my effort is to become a better fantasy reader, take you guys along. My goal is to have one smart question that I've come up with on my own from reading it on my own. And we're going to discuss.
Fellas, am I able to come in? Am I able to interject here for a moment?
Mr. Carlin, thank you for coming.
I would like to do my own segment that I would like to call Goblin Talk. If you would, Ryan, Goblin Talk. Very nice. So we hear that Goblin Talk is some sort of slur or a derogatory thing, but I tend to see it completely different. I mean, it's the rusty wheel that gets the oil. If there's an issue, it should be addressed. And so here's what I would like to bring up. This is my conspiracy. Reading this first chapter, I noticed that Bran Alvear has been the mayor of this town for 20 years. He's the only innkeeper in Edmonds Field, in a nice piece of real estate that is right along the wine spring. And he's the only one that doesn't have a thatched roof. Thatch is one of the more rudimentary roofs that we could have. There isn't that much of a structural integrity to it, now is there? I mean, it's just grass and hay and sticks and, whatever else you can find laying around the forest floor. Well, that's your roof. So, while it's maybe cost effective and while it might certainly clean up the forest, you won't have to rake the forest in order to not get any forest fires if you're just using them for your roofs, I suppose. But let's take this one step further. Sanbui is the only thatcher in town. You need your roof fixed. Well, he's all you got. And we see that Whitconger wasn't doing anything. He was laying about on his porch, not addressing his roof. And one of the first things that Rand notices is, well, his roof certainly could use Master Bowie's attention. I say that this is something that Rand has been trained to do. To see where people's thatch has certainly worn away a little bit, and to judge these people. Why is that? Well, Sen Bowie not only is the only thatcher, but he's on the village council as well. Every disagreement he has with Nynaeve Almira in the women's circle, well, he does so from a position of power. Not only is he the only thatcher, and, well, that's the only roofer in town, let's just say, he also sits on the council itself and makes all the rules. He and Bran Alvear, who's been mayor for 20 years and has the only roof that isn't thatch. It makes you wonder if Copland Talk is, well, if it's all that worrisome now, is it? I'm a firm believer in Copland Talk, and hopefully this can be a recurring theme when I come in and talk truth to power, boys, and really get to the heart of it. Remember, it's all follow the money.
Sexy.
And Carlin, breaking it down. So basically, there is a conspiracy that Sen Bowie, who I was on my second reread, I was really starting to get a real deep appreciation for Sen Bowie. I found him to be the Paul Revere of the Two Rivers, sounding the alarm about the omens he's seeing when he gets mocked and he's called a soothsayer. Well, God damn it, he is, and he's absolutely correct, and he is fearlessly, trying to rally the people and trying to get answers, and he is upset with Nynaeve Almira, which is just classic.
Well, but let's take this one step. Let's take it maybe two steps further, even, Ryan. What he is complaining about is that there's no storks nesting in the roofs of the village. I mean, so let's say you wake up and you look up on your roof and there's a stork nesting in your roof. This is going to certainly deteriorate the structural integrity of your abode. And I'm imagining that these storks are probably a protected species based on their reaction to not being around during Beltane. They seem to be beloved, and so you would be hard-pressed to, evacuate these squatters up on your roof that are actually tearing apart your roof, all so that they can have their babies. But, I ask you, what if every villager was allowed to have a tile roof? Would we be complaining about the storks not nesting on your house? No, they would just find a more suitable place. Tradition has been holding back the technology of the Two Rivers. End quote.
Are you sure you're not a historian?
I gotta go. Bye.
Okay.
There we go. There he went.
Oh my God.
He scampers like a leprechaun. You see him, and he is instantly under a bed, or it's so great. He just goes.
We are blessed to have Dan Carlin in this podcast. He really fleshes things out for us. That's a hot take. Who knew? Who knew there's even anything?
I didn't think about it at all.
I thought
It was only Dan Carlin.
I thought really the hot take was that Matt is a sociopathic animal torturer who is wantonly grabbing animals out of their abodes and using them as props in his own game to manipulate the women. It's really sick. I thought that was really the hot take, but no, it's Sen Bowie. Who knew?
Ryan,
What?
are you suggesting you've never stirred
angry old badger or two out of a den to just attack girls? I mean, badgers are angry. They have teeth and nails, and if threatened, their fight or flight, they will fight. They will bite a girl right in her face.
Right in their
But it's funny. But it's funny. I mean, I'm on Matt's team. It's funny.
You know what I love about this chapter is we get to meet Rand, and our first glimpse of Rand is him fumbling around, not able to manage the simplest thing like his cloak, his bow, and the wind. And not only that, we get to hear his thoughts, and he really doesn't want his father to notice that he's having these issues, which is very typical, very natural of a young boy turning man situation. And I didn't realize this until I'm going now through this reread, is that motif is real for Rand throughout the entire series. He has a secret private life in his mind, and sometimes it leads to very, very frustrating chapters and sometimes even whole books where he's doing one thing and he knows other things, and his actions are in conflict with his thoughts. And there's so many times I just want to look at Rand and be like, Jesus, Rand, talk to Min, tell her she's right there. She wants to hear you, and he's incapable of kind of getting these secret thoughts out. It was something I knew throughout reading the series about Rand and about how Robert Jordan wrote Rand. I didn't realize how it is established in the very first chapter that Rand has this. It's cool.
Well, to your point also, so the first thing that we kind of see Rand is unprepared. He is on his way to the village, and it is colder than he had dressed. He wished he had an extra shirt or a cloak or something to help with the wind. He's the first time we see him, he is unprepared, and this is kind of a running theme with how Rand has to deal with things later on. He's not given a whole lot of preparedness. He's kind of just thrown into situations instead of him having that extra cert in later issues. He doesn't have that extra 500 years of training in the power that he should have. He doesn't have the guidance or the experience that he should have before he's put into these things. To your point, yeah, the first time we see him, he's unprepared. He goes out and it's cold, and he lives there, but he still made a bad choice and is having to deal with it.
The juxtaposition of this kind of jovial small town life. We have children running around with hoops, running around the classic stick and hoop game, which seems really hard to me. I can't imagine that actually being it seems like a very highly skill-based game to run around with a stick and a hoop and make that, do any action. I would love to see some YouTube videos of that back in the day. And then we have this jovial action going on with the townspeople. We have bell time coming up. We have talk of fireworks and what have you, and it's all under this backdrop of foreboding natural phenomenon. Some sort of dark figure in the woods teaching Rand the concept of fear itself, trademark, and basically, and it's extremely well written. It's really grabbing. It's a great opening chapter. Now it's time for my big question. Figure this out, Dan. Get ready. You ready? You ready? Settling in. Now, what is the story of Tam? Right? Tam helps Rand out on the road. Rand is scared, startled by something. Rand asks Tam. They turn around. They do not see it. Tam maybe believes, maybe doesn't believe. My secret, not so secret, my personal belief is that he really does believe, and I think he is on guard after that in a way. But helping Rand out, Rand's stressing out, and he tells him to look for the void and the flame. And then Rand explains that this unusual talk, no one in Two Rivers talks like this. But Tam has an interesting backstory. Tam apparently goes off as a young lad, as he would say it, and to quote unquote seek adventure. Somehow gets involved in some sort of huge war, finds a baby, comes home with, and that's the story. And for me, that does not
and actually,
satisfy me.
somewhere in there also becomes a blade master and gets a heron mark blade.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes, thank you for piggybacking. Yes, he comes back with a heron mark blade, and he's a blade master, and he's talking this crazy talk about the void and the flame. Now, the void and the flame just happens to be the meditation technique that is the key to allowing Rand to use his powers later on. My question to you, to Dan Carlin, maybe, to the listeners, to everyone at home, to Mr. Rogers, to the puppets on Sesame Street. My question to
apartment 226.
Bueller. No, my question is this: is it a coincidence that Tam taught Rand the meditation technique that is necessary for him to
That's a
access
good
the
question.
one-powered? Brother Dan, go.
Even from
The first step of becoming a good fantasy reader is good questions. I don't have to find out the answers. I'm just going to come up with the questions, put my feet out on the table, and let you answer.
I don't really have an answer ready for that. I know. So Lan doesn't seem to be completely familiar with the flame and the void, but he understands what Rand's kind of getting at. But I think he like kind of has a different way. He's like, oh, okay. I think Rand was like, oh yeah, I just use the flame.
You mean land?
So
magic?
Land goes, oh,
Okay, but
okay, yeah, you can do that too, kind of thing. When he was training him.
But he doesn't channel.
So I'm
yeah. But sorry, no. Hey, stirring up debate. I think it's good.
I don't think that he knows that the kid is the dragon, or I don't think that he knows that he can channel. I don't think he knows any of that stuff per se. I think he probably does know that transcendental meditation works for him, and he uses that as like a focus for himself. Some people use something else. Yeah, to me, it was just a meditation focus that just happened to let him Rand clear his mind, but it could have been something else.
I thought you were firmly in camp coincidence, but then at their last second there, you went more into camp ambiguous.
I would say camp ambiguous. I don't know if
pick a side.
Well,
this is tavern talk. I'm getting drunk. Pick a side.
I am picking the side of good and not evil.
I'll tell that story. I will tell that story. Do you want me to?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a really funny pull. Good pull. All right. I'm a big snorer. I'm an inveterate snorer. If I'm on my back, it sounds.
It's Sawtown.
It says. What are those big groms? Those big dogs. I imagine that's what they sound like when they're sleeping, just really loud. Anyway, so my lady at one point was trying to be nice, and she, taps on me and goes, "Hey, Ryan, what side do you want to be on? which is her way of just saying, hey, you know, do you want to roll over onto your left or you want to roll over onto your right? But whatever you're doing, you're not staying on your back. So, but she's saying it in a nice way. And she's like, Ryan, what side do you want to be on? And without waking up, I said, the good side, not the evil. And then I went back to sleep.
You know what? I think that that's an endearing story because it proves that even in your sleep, you are fighting evil. You're on the side of good, not evil.
Honest to God, I am.
What side are you on?
When I was told that story, my first response in my mind, like Rand and his secret responses, my response was, "Oh, good."
That could have gone either way.
That could have been real. Yeah. That could have been bad.
Ryan, I asked what side you want to be on last night, and you said anarchy.
I've yelled, no, it gets weird. It gets weird at night. But for reals, I said good side, not the evil.
Weird.
I am not gonna confess anymore. We're moving on. So you are falling firmly on the side. I'm laying it out for you. You think it's a hogwash. You think it's a coincidence. That's exactly how you laid it out. I'm calling you out. I think Tam has a way more deep and rich backstory. I think Tam is Tavern. I think Tam went out seeking to follow prophecy and not find adventure. I think Tam went out to find the baby and to help raise the dragon reborn. And I believe that to my soul because that is too much of a coincidence that he just happens to have a meditation technique that unlocks the true source. Tavern Talk.
That's a mighty mountain to climb. I love it. It's like you just stepped off a cliff. And it's like when the Wile E. Coyote was like kept walking though, because he didn't know that there was no ground for him to stand on. But then he looks down.
I'm still standing.
No. I think
the mountain's gone.
I'm
gonna fall to my death, and I don't know what's going on.
No, what you've done is you've just walked out. You look down, and you're holding up a sign that says "Yikes."
Mm-hmm. Regardless of your ad hominem abusive attack on me, I am just going to take that you don't have a really strong argument, and your Quince's argument is facile, and I won. And we're moving on. That's my question of the week. I'm going to have one every week. I hope that's fun. We want the discussion to keep going. What do you guys think about Tam Althor? Did he have prescience when he taught Rand those techniques? Was it a huge coincidence? Let us know. Tavern door is shut. Shutting the doors. Oh. Oh, the episode is wrapping up. Brother Dan, that was a very well done recap. Thank you so much. As things are wrapping up, I want to just tell everyone that's a mistake. I'll do it again. Once you do it twice, it's jazz. All right. We think of this as a collaborative effort. We have musicians that we work with, and we're going to thank them individually right now. First is Homunculus Rex. The opening theme song is Cell Tower or Tree. You can find that on SoundCloud. The closing song that we're listening to right now is called Go There by Luke Dahl. It's remixed by Orlox. Both Luke Dahl and Orlox can be found on SoundCloud. We also work with Hermit Convention. Hermit Convention can be found on SoundCloud as well. Today's episode featured the vocal talents of Aiden Morgan. We will be having him appear as often as possible. He's very talented. We are so happy that you are participating with us in this journey. We are on chapter 2 next week. I hope you guys follow along, whether this is your reread or your first read, your 5th read, 6th read. I think we're here to add to the community, add to the discussion. We are fans. We are lovers. We are brothers.
They know.
No, this has been great. Danny, anything to say to the listeners?
Next week we're doing chapter 2. It's called Strangers. Thank you, each and every one of you, for listening. We love you all very much. I want you all to stay healthy and safe. Keep cool, man. Be good drivers. Wave people in.
May you always find shade and water.
Yes, indeed. Good job, Ryan.